Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Servants. Today we are going to be looking into one of the most horrific, the most disturbing, the most powerful entities that the Fate universe has ever seen. Originally, just a nameless being given form and name by Hans Christian Andersen. A mistake that any practitioners of the occult studies would tell you. By giving it a name, you have anchored its dreadful existence to the world, and now the realm of mortals must suffer for this arrogance. That's right. Today, we are covering Nursery Rhyme. I have mentioned in the past, in other videos and on my streams, that Nursery Rhyme is one of the most terrifying characters in Fate. Not just FGO, but Fate in general. This is for several reasons. From her origins to her now existence in Chaldea, and what she truly represents. But where do we start with such a character? Well, like any good fairy tale, let's start at Once Upon a Time. Once upon a time, there was a little sickly girl. We do not know her real name, so we shall call her Alice. Alice lived in England during the closing days of World War II, and right when the war was winding down, she was severely injured in a bombing raid. Close to death and mortally wounded, she was taken to a hospital for treatment. The doctors found out that Alice was special. She had magic circuits. Wonderful little things in her body that, if properly used, could allow her to perform miracles. The doctors wanted to know more about these mystical things, and thus kept Alice alive for years, with the express purpose of experimenting on her. She lived in this state, unable to leave the bed, as strange men and women cut into her to see what lay beneath the skin, if the veins connected to the circuits themselves, what colors magic truly was. For years, Alice lived like this, until finally her body could not take it any longer, and she died. Unfortunately for the poor girl, this would not be the end of her suffering, as her magical circuits had connected to a mysterious force on the dark side of the moon, and her soul was drawn into the moon cell. She exists as a cyber ghost, said to suck the souls out of others who may speak to her. But it is here that she would make a contract with her one and only friend, a caster called Nursery Rhyme. Rhyme is the amalgamation of storybooks, a hero created by the dreams that these stories inspire, but as such has no physical form of its own. Thus, it takes the form of its current master, Alice. Together, they participate in the events of Fate Extra, being the master of the third floor. They wish to play with the main character, Hakuno, and trap him within a reality marble. It is revealed that Alice is dead in the real world, existing as a cyber ghost and being tethered to this world through her servant. Thus, as they lay dying after Hakuno defeats them to escape, Alice clasps the hand of her one and only friend and disintegrates into data, while Nursery Rhyme laments their deaths. Of course, there's a very different telling of the story as well. At one point, Alice discovers that she is able to be seen by one of the masters, and he plays with her and reads her books. She begins to call him Oni-chan. For a while, they are happy, but soon her Oni-chan had to go and asked that she forfeit the fight. He promised to return to her once he had the Holy Grail, and she agreed, allowing him to ascend to the fourth floor. There she waited patiently for what seemed like an eternity, and less people seemed to be willing to ascend to the various floors to reach the Grail. Soon, she herself began to fade away, and in an attempt to stay put while waiting for her Oni-chan to come back, she started to absorb the object data on the floor to sustain herself. Over time, this morphed her body into a twisted, monstrous form, and began indiscriminately attacking and devouring any masters that she came across, all but forgetting the promise to her Oni-chan, and having morphed into a terrifying beast.
Picking up the daisies, a tissue, we all jump up. Picking up the daisies, a tissue, we all jump up.
When Hakuno, Rin, and Nero arrive on the floor, they find themselves trapped in a reality marble, the Nameless Forest. What this means is that they will wander forever until they can either break free or perish. Add on to this that Alice is able to reset the time to the beginning of the day should she need to. The group has a run-in with Alice, but fends her off and escapes. Then, Hakuno begins to see Alice's memories with her and her Oni-chan, and discovers a lone book on a spot where he used to read her stories. When they encounter Alice again, she initially defends herself, but, upon seeing the book, allows herself to be killed. She then watches as the trio ascends the floor, taking comfort that her Oni-chan had returned. But what of Nursery Rhyme herself? As mentioned prior, she is not a traditional heroic spirit, in that she herself did not complete any great deeds in life. Rather, she is described as being a representation of any picture book beloved by children, and specifically based around the tale by Lewis Carroll, Alice in Wonderland, which began as a gathering of poems read to the daughter of a friend of his on warm summer days. Now you may be asking yourself, if Nursery Rhyme takes the form of her master, why does she appear as Alice in FGO? Well, the answer to that is explained that she does so in hopes of giving Alice the happily ever after that she could not receive in life, as I believe it is implied that they are still somewhat connected even after death. So, while Nursery does feel a twinge of guilt for doing so, she takes this form in remembrance of her former master. Fun fact about Nursery's design that many people miss in FGO, she actually has doll joints that connect her knees, hands, and assumably the rest of her body. Will they stick with this design in the future? Who knows? Well, they should, because this directly ties to Fate's CCC, as Melt turns Nursery into a doll and rips her into several pieces, traumatizing Alice. She is saved and restored after Hakuno put her back together. Well, kind of. Alice dies after she is given the doll of Nursery Rhyme, and Nursery thanks Hakuno before passing on herself. You may be noticing a trend here. Nursery Rhyme is always beside her master, and as such the two are tied together. This is because Nursery is a servant who cares deeply for her master in almost a maternal way. She wishes for the best outcome for the one that she serves and will go to any lengths to make sure that that happens. But I introduced this video by saying that she is one of the most terrifying characters in Fate lore. Allow me to explain. I have already shown you the clip of Alice transforming and eating the masters. Well, this is a skill that Nursery shares with her. That being the self-modification skill. The ability to weld and remove other things from your being in order to bolster your strength and ability. Couple this with what is implied in the writing of FGO to be Nursery's signature ability. Nursery is a hero that represents all fairy tales and the wishes of children. I now ask you this question, dear listener. Have you read any real fairy tales? This is not asking have you watched Disney movies or read how many of them have been revised. I mean a real fairy tale. A popular one that is often mentioned in Fate is The Little Mermaid, and we see a constant back and forth between Hans and Nursery, with Nursery desiring a happy ending for Ariel. This is because the original The Little Mermaid ends with the mermaid's death. Another example of this is Cinderella. They neglected to add into the fact that the sisters severed parts of their feet in order to fit into the glass slippers, and that when their deception was revealed, they were made to wear shoes that forced you to be onto your tiptoes, and should you fall, a nail or spike would be driven through your heel, and then crows would come and pick out your eyes or something. Didn't see that in Disney. Fairy tales have long served as both stories of comfort as well as stories of caution. They are meant to be read to children as they drift off to sleep, but also to teach them that the world is a dangerous place. Nursery Rhyme is implied to be able to manifest these stories into reality, essentially able to bring the suffering that the adversaries in these stories had to endure into reality. I pull this from her association with Lovecraft. That's right. In the Prisma Ilia event, it is shown that Nursery Rhyme is able to manifest the Black Goat of the Woods who bore 1,000 young, the deity Shub-Niggurath. What this means is that she can create or merge with any character from fiction at will, not just fairy tales. Imagine the possibilities. Anything that has ever been written as a fictional story until now, she has the ability to make it into a reality. In theory, she could even manifest a form of some of the heroic spirits that we see in Chaldea, such as Beowulf, the Valkyrie, Galate, Beni Enma, Shuten, and the list goes on. Let's step back for a moment though. Let's just assume that that is all a fluke and one-off writing about the characters, as this would make her one of the most powerful servants ever, rivaling Gilgamesh and gods. Let's assume that she can only conjure up things from Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass, both of which involve the titular character, Alice. We have a precedent for this as well, with her being able to conjure up the Jabberwock in Fate Extra, which appears as a Berserker-class servant, and the Jabberwock being a story in Through the Looking Glass, so I'm going to wrap that together with Alice in Wonderland. Even if this is the case, she is still one of the strongest servants. For those who have actually read both of these stories, you will remember one character that allows her to be ranked among literal gods. In Through the Looking Glass, a story set as though the world were a game of chess, Alice finds the Red King sleeping soundly. She is warned not to wake him up, because she is a part of his dream. And if he were to wake up, she would vanish with a bang. That's right. In the event that Nursery Rhyme was so inclined, she could put whoever she is fighting into a reality marble with the Red King. Naturally unsure of what to do, someone would attack this king, wake him up, and poof. They no longer exist, merely remnants of a morning haze. Imagine that. This is not even getting into all the other insane creatures with absurd powers that she would be able to summon within the reality marble either. Do yourself a favor and read both of these stories. They are wonderfully written, and reading them with the thought in mind that Nursery Rhyme could summon this will make you realize just how strong that she truly is. I pray for a summer version or animation update for her, because she is a character that I do truly love for her uniqueness in the story. This episode of Behind the Servants has been rather devoid of history, I've come to notice, and that is because she is a minor character in Fate Extra and a minor character in FGO, which is a shame because there is an entire event laying in wait of the Master of Chaldea exploring Wonderland and all the insane things that happen there. Also, I'm still a bit iffy on the classification of what allows for a servant to be a pretender, but mark my words, a pretender Alice or Nursery Rhyme may come someday, given the fact that we know so little about who Alice actually was outside of the pseudonym. I love this character and want to see more of her, and I can't even pray to DW now that FGO belongs to someone else, but whatever. Make it happen. But that is it. One book in the books. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Let me know what you thought in the comments. If there is a servant that you would like me to cover, please let me know about that as well. Like the video as it really does help out the channel. Subscribe to catch these as they go up. Follow my Twitch for significantly less structured content. I also have a Twitter, but for now, keep your chin up. Peace.